Alrighty, folks, welcome. Today is Saturday. It's the 4th of November. We're going to do another podcast for you guys. Folks, I'd like to welcome you back. I know it's been a very long time away from you guys. I do apologize about that. Um, I want to let you guys know right up front, I'm not a morning person, and class for us now starts at 0500 in the morning, Monday through Friday, with Saturday and Sunday with my off days. And I had to go from working 1400 to 2330 to now 0500 to 1300. So I also want to mention that as a small finer point. You guys will also realize the aviation changes schedules all the time. Not even just the airline schedules, the airplanes and arrivals and departures, but also their employees. Their schedules change more often than I can tell you. Okay. Now, with that being said, with that out the way, we've addressed the elephant in the room, and that's why I have been gone for so long. And I have a new work area. I will be a part of the move team. And right now we're in class. And so there's not a whole lot right now that I can talk to you about and or record for you. Once we get rolling and once we get going, then I might be able to do some more content for you guys and discuss some things. Obviously that's within the realm of my job. Okay, because I'm not going to put anybody at risk. That's not the whole point of this channel. All right, this is for you guys to entertain it, and so that we can all be together as a family as one. Okay, now jumping into our podcast tonight. Okay, um, the there's a few differences in Airbus and Boeing, okay? Now, we're going to generally talk about this, okay? Um, in terms of the differences in both of them, and we're gonna talk a little bit about some history and that sort of thing. Um, and then also, I have with me some index cards because we're gonna go over a couple, um, aircraft types and aircraft bodies and the series and all that stuff. So you can see there's Airbus. This is just a brief synopsis, and I dropped it. Not prepared, right? And there's Boeing. So there's quite a bit. Okay. Now, the ones we'll talk about later is MD series, which is McDonnell Douglas. And we will talk about Lockheed Martin, and we'll talk about Piper, and we'll talk about Cirrus, and we'll talk about Cessna, and all those in a different podcast. Because right now we're going to talk about commercial airlines, and we're going to talk about your general narrow body and wide body style aircraft types. Okay, so just some brief history about these two. So, Boeing was founded in 1916 in the United States with their headquarters in Chicago, Illinois. Now, Airbus, this took them a couple of years, and by a couple of years, I mean a lot of years, to come up with this idea, this concept. They formed as a consortium of European Aerospace in 1970 with their headquarters, and guess where? It's not in the United States, was actually in Toulouse, France, right? So, Boeing offers a diverse range of planes, including both narrow body, wide body, and specialty aircraft systems, and even military. Now, believe it or not, they also have space systems. I'm almost positive the space shuttle is part of the Boeing's uh, fleet company. Okay. Whereas Airbus, they have, narrow body 320s and they got wide bodies as well. And then they have what they call super heavies, okay, or super big ones. And we'll talk about those ones as well. Um, so Boeing, they wanted to pretty much feature more on um, the efficiency and performance, okay, of each in type of aircraft. So they have a more streamlined and a more conservative body frame to be able to be more aerodynamic and to be more fuel efficient, that sort of thing. And, so Airbus was like, "Well, we're gonna go ahead and see you, but we're gonna raise you, like a poker chip, okay? We're going to be more focused on technology because we see that, the economy and the industry is gonna be more advanced technologically and more advanced, with innovations, so we're gonna go that route. So, Boeing, we'll see ya." Now, guys, I do make that as a joke, but you guys have to remember that Boeing and Airbus are like cops in the fire department, okay? They're like, Coke and Pepsi. They're like, some other major competitors, right? They're competition-based companies. They thrive on their competition, okay? So, they went for a more automated and digital control in Airbus, and we'll explain that later as some of the differences between Boeing and Airbus, all right? See it in its structures. Now, in the cockpit, Boeing went with a more traditional design with physical control, manual input with some digital displays, whereas Airbus, they have a fly-by-wire philosophy where computers take the pilot's input via their controls and adjust them electronically for all their other systems and their surfaces, the flight surfaces, okay? Um, Now, in terms of making profits, right? Boeing went with a pretty strong presence in all of the United States. That's where they thrived. Okay, and then they went some overseas to other markets, the European markets, the Asian markets, the South American markets, and even down in the Australian market. Okay, um, and Airbus went with a completely different way, and as you but before I go any further, I'm pretty sure you guys are aware, which one is you think is the top rated Boeing airplane? And I say this as a chuckle because a lot of you guys, we enjoy, we endear you, we love you, but not every plane is a 737, okay? And, that's one of the reasons that we do this channel. We're here to show you and explain to you how there's many different kinds of airplanes out there, not just a 737, okay? So, um, now the Airbus has what we call a 320 family, where it's the 319, the 320, and the 321. So you got the 3 and you think of it like the mama bear, the brother bear, and the papa bear, right? It's the same family of bears, but they're of different sizes, different styles, different demeanors, different personality, all that. It's the same thing with the 3 Airbuses in there. So that was their major market. We'll explain in some of the other ones as I read you these, okay? But we're gonna go to some basic, technical and features about these 2 companies. Um, so Boeing is also, iconic for its 747, the big jumbo jet. That big bubble up on top there. You guys should already know that. Now, for those of you guys that don't already know, if you'd like to take a stab, what do you think Airbus answered that same question on the 747 with? I'll give you guys a couple of seconds, a couple of minutes. Now, if you're listening to me, not live, that's okay. I'm gonna insert a pause here for you to come up with a thought, a guess, and then we're gonna continue going from this stream. You guys come up with your answer yet? Okay. Beep, 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 beep. Time's up. Okay. The answer was the Airbus 380, or we call it the A380, A meaning Airbus. Some people will put the short little side note here. Some people will put the B for Bravo in front of the aircraft number. All that designates is just it's Boeing. And like when I talk about the A350 or the A320, what I'm referring to is Airbus 320. It's just identifying that it belongs to the Airbus family. Okay. Now, later on, you'll find out later that the Airbus eventually decided it was gonna have some more competition, so it unveiled the 350. Okay. That's the latest one in their fleet right now. It's the 350. Um, yeah, we've already talked about how it's going to be more efficient and all the markets and that sort of thing. Um, yeah, so that was pretty much it, guys. We'll get more into in depth on some of the history among both of them and that sort of thing in another podcast. But so, are you ready for the meat in your burger? What we really are here for? Okay. So, what we're gonna do is I'm gonna break down your. Well, you know what? I'm gonna leave it to you. For my folks that are listening to me live, which one do you want us to do first? Okay. And I have about an equal number of both of them, to be quite honest with you. Maybe more a little bit on one, but not by a long shot. Now, let's see if you can figure out which one came on top. Was it Airbus or Boeing? Remember, Boeing's been out longer than Airbus has. So, which one do you think it is? Put your guesses in the comment section there if you're live. If you're listening to me after we just posted this, post it in the comment section below and this, that, and the other. Okay. Are you ready? Let's get started. Okay. So for Boeing, we actually are going to go through a few of them that are in service today. Now, I'm going to explain something here. Now, I'm going to go over a few of these models and types and series and stuff of that sort. But let me tell you, this podcast would probably over 4 hours long talking about every single aircraft type that was out there, right? Even if I didn't put the Boeing versus Airbus subject on there, guys, they would be 4 hours long. There's so many planes, so many types, so many variations, historic, gone in production, thinking about being produced, currently in service today. It'd be crazy. So, we're going to go over the main ones that are in use today. Okay. I am well aware that there are more, but we're going to stick to the ones that are in service today on a regular basis, right? On a regular day to day basis. Also, let me make this real clear. I am talking about planes that you, as a passenger, civilian person with luggage and a ticket, can purchase to fly on one of these babies. Okay, these aircraft types. We're not going to UPS. We're not going to touch into FedEx. We're not going to touch into DHL. Okay, because they have their own little things. And um, as a matter of fact, in the McDonnell Douglas line, there's actually one aircraft type that they used that was specifically for freight, which was and used to be a passenger carrier. Okay. Now, if you know that, drop that comment in the comment section as well, and we'll give it a like if you're correct. Let's see who's no. Let's see who knows what they're talking about. Okay. All right. Are you ready? We're going to talk about Boeing first. Okay. Since Boeing was in the industry from the very get go. Okay. So you've got your 737s, right? Now, there are actually four different kinds of Boeing 737s, and I'm going to do my best to explain what a 737 looks like. Okay. Actually, let me do this. Let me pull up an image for you guys while we do this, and we're going to show you the differences of each kinds of aircraft types. Okay. I'm trying to pull it up here so I can show you guys. I'm trying to do this on the fly. Okay. Because if you look at the later ones that we have or that's going to be coming, um, you will notice that some of them have features that you may not recognize or may recognize. It's up to you. Okay, I think that's the 7. That must be the new one. That must be the 777. Okay. All right. They had this 757, and that's probably one of the older ones in service full for my airline, that is. Okay. So I would like to show you the, well, you know what I'm going to do? Um, while you guys are listening to all of that, um, let's see. I would be willing to bet that somebody on here put that up. Oh, okay. Um, bummer. Well, guys, I'm sorry. We're just gonna have to do this we best we can because, um, unfortunately for you, you guys get to see them from the jet bridge point of view. You don't get to see them from the ramp, from our tarmac point of view. Okay. Now, the 737 is a very low to the ground. I say low within moderation, okay? Now, I'm aware that the Boeing 717 was low-ish, okay? Now, in the aviation industry, we call it the little mad dog, if you guys are aware of the mad dog phrase, okay? So, there it is, the 717. You see that? Right up at the very top, right here. Now, the one that I know is in service today is the 200 series, okay? There are a couple of carriers that have that, one of which I know is Delta, okay? Delta is a very big major carrier of the Boeing 717, as you guys can, tell, and it's actually quite comfy aircraft, for its age, okay? Because these all these planes age eventually. So you got the 717, which is basically a small MD-80, okay? Smaller MD-80, and we'll explain some of the features on that one in another video, because I don't feel like it needs to be discussed in this one, because it's more closely related to and closely more resembles the McDonnell Douglas family. And I'm not mistaken, they ended up, being produced around MD-82s, the MD-90, 92s, all them, okay? And if you're curious, I will explain why those numbers in the McDonnell Douglas series are important and impressive and valuable. Okay. But that's for another video. Okay. So you got the 737s. Now, these are lower to the ground. They sit lower to the ground. They have both, a right, a left, and a nose gear, landing gear. Okay. Um, they come in really 4 different series types. Are you guys ready for this? So you have the 700, okay? You have the 800, you have the 900 series, and then you have the 900 ER. Now, for my aviation family that you guys are, subscribed to, do any of you know what ER stands for? Do any of you guys know? And we're going to talk about a term later called ETOPS, okay? Which is kind of related to this, but not really. You can kind of pair them both together. So, does anybody know what ER stands for? And this will pop up in another variation later on in my list. So, pay attention. Okay. All right. Time is up. So, ER stands for extended range. Okay. Um, then you have, I'm going to skip over the main one because we'll talk about that one at the very end. Save the best for last, right? Um, you have the 757, which is basically what we call the flying pencil, okay? Because it has big struts on the sides and it sits pretty high up. You guys should take a look at the 757 nose gear. Matter of fact, go check out my channel. I show you all these different plane types and the major characteristics that define each of them. But for the sake of this podcast, folks, uh, let's show you what the 7 nose gear looks like. It is pretty tall. It is, and yeah. All right. Are you guys ready? Okay. This is what it looks like. You guys see that? If you have to, pause the video. All right. That is an image of ground level of a 757 nose gear. Okay. Now, would you like to see the front of it? There you go. Pretty big light system right up in the middle, as you can see. There's a closer up look at it. Hold on. There you go. Strut and everything. So they use these to um, taxi, and they use these for runway turnoffs. And this one they use to line up the nose wheel. Okay. And we'll explain about this one later on because that serves a purpose for us as well. Okay, so it sits a little high up for us. Okay, that's the Boeing 757. Okay, in service today, they have the 200 and the 300 series. Okay, um, and it has this is what we call a part of the narrow body family. Now, the narrow body, and we'll talk about in another podcast the difference between a wide body family and a narrow body family. Okay, that's going to be in another stream. Maybe in the next stream, I think. You know what? We'll do that in the next stream so you guys can understand what a wide body and a narrow body is. Whenever the airline refers to, oh, it's going to be a wide body, so there's a couple extra steps involved. Like, what's a wide body? Aren't they all wide? Well, in the aviation industry, some are not technically wide bodies, but we call them wide bodies. So we have the narrow body manual fed Boeing 757s, okay? Then you've got the wide body family, okay? The Boeing 767 200, the Boeing 767 300, and the Boeing 767 400, okay? Now, I think in one of my videos, one of my subscribers and a few others that weren't subscribed also commented that there were different characteristics of my particular um, aircraft that we work close connection with directly. Okay, so as you guys know, I work for United. It's not a secret. So our two systems that we use, our two series that we work with is the 300 and the 400. Okay. Now, for us, one of ours has winglets. The other has a raked wingtip. It's been brought to my attention, and this is true information. I did my research. Some carriers do have winglets in the upper series, okay? Because you can buy them with wing. Think of a plane as a car, okay? You're going to go to the car parking lot. You're gonna go to the dealership and you're gonna say, "I want such and such a car. I want such and such a feature. I want such and such a style. I want this part added on. I want this part removed." Okay. You can do that when you order an airplane, right? It's the same as ordering online for food. You order your base meal, you can omit an item, you can remove an item, you can add extra to an item, you can ask that you add an item be added, right? All kinds of stuff. So, I'm not gonna talk about what each one looks like because there's many different kinds. Now, if for the purpose of this, um, demonstrate purpose of our podcast, I can definitely talk about some of are involved in our carriers, but I know this is the internet, and I'm not going to be a part of that whole fighting culture. That's not what we're gonna do here at the Toga Brother channel. We're here to have a good time, and we're here to enjoy ourselves, and we're here to talk about aviation. It's like a home for you aviation enthusiasts, right? You av geeks. So having had said that, so we went over the 737, we went over the 717, we went over the 757, we went over the 767. Now we're gonna go over the 777, or the 777 as we call it, okay? So, they have the 200 series, they have the 300 series, and they have 1 more of that. Actually, they have 2 more of that. They have the 300 ER, which is what? You guys been paying attention? That's right, it's the extended range, okay? It's the same body, it just carries more fuel, and it can carry a little bit more passengers, okay? Um, and then you have the X, which is going to be a folded winglet design. You'll see that later on, okay? If you want, while you're in the middle of this podcast, you're more than welcome to go browse the internet for, information and features and, some pictures and identifications and stuff. So, um, let's show you what the 777 looks like. Okay. So, quite fitting. I'm almost tempted to show you United's. But we're going to use Emirates. Now, this was featured in a website, and this is what the 777 looks like, folks. Okay. The nose is pretty high up for a regular individual that is watching. Okay. Some key parts of this aircraft is it has 3 wheels for its landing gear because it is a very heavy aircraft. The engines are very, very strong, and folks, these engines are huge. Look, there is your windows seat window. There is your engine. It is massive, okay? Now, in aviation, we also talk about this all the time, okay? Back there in the back, do you see that? That hole? That's actually important and needs to be there. That is the APU engine exhaust port. But do you notice that it's squished? It literally looks like I took a tube and I squeezed the back of it like this in my palm, okay? Like I kind of crushed it a little bit, right? So it's kind of in a triangle. That is one of the features of the Boeing 777, or the 777 as we call it in the industry, okay? And then the other one that's pretty synonymous with the Boeing 777, the Boeing 777 is one of those aircraft types that have pretty much standard raked wingtips. Now, with the exception of the X. The X is the only one in its kind that has both raked wingtip and winglet, okay? Now, what is a winglet? A wing, think of this as the wing, right? I know you guys have seen this lately, and you're like, what is that thing that's bending up? It's called a winglet, and it improves the aerodynamics of the aircraft in flight, okay? It improves the vortices that's being, created and the wind path that goes and flows over the wing, and it actually reduces, turbulence, believe it or not, okay? Um, I'm not a FAA licensed pilot, so I'm not going to talk about what it actually does in flight, so you guys can, talk about that, amongst yourselves, but I just wanna let you know we're talking about some of the physical features and some of the different aircraft types, okay? And the landing gear, as you can see here, is pretty significant to the size of the aircraft type, okay? Um, I wanna show you something here real quick because you guys are gonna see and notice something. Look at the windows in the cockpit, the flight deck, okay? Look at the way the window is shaped, alright? You see that? Look at the top. Now look at the bottom of the corner right here. Look at the bottom. Do you see how we kinda got an angle going there? Alright? Now, you're gonna compare this later to the Airbus family, alright? And you're gonna notice some features that are different. And this is how people like me, what are called plane spotters, this is what we look for when we look at planes to try to spot or find, is that what we call them? Okay? I'm noticing that there's a lot of popping involved, and this is gonna try to reduce that, guys. Sorry. Um, it sometimes as though it keeps my voice away from it, so it's hard to hear what I'm speaking. Okay. So we discussed the 767, we discussed the 777, the 757, the 737, and the 717. Alright, what we haven't talked about is the 787, okay? Now, the 787 is very unlike its kind in many reasons. Okay. Also, I want to show you, before we go much further, I need you folks to focus on the nose, okay? Primarily from this part of my finger forward, alright? Look at the nose, the belly of the nose, and look at the top of the nose, right by the windows. You guys see that? Now just look at that real good, okay? Now, you got that in your mind? I'm gonna show you the nose of a 787, and I'm gonna bet you anything that you're gonna go, "Wait a minute, I had no idea." Okay, are you ready? You guys remember that? Look at the nose of a 787. Sorry, the glare from my camera is not helping me right now. Um, let me see if I can get a better picture with better contrast. Okay, I know I work for United. I'm not impartial to United, but let me show you a better picture. Okay, look at picture now. Take a look if you think I'm being deceitful. Right here is the front galley door. You see that? We're completely straight up, completely vertical, right? Look at the nose. What do you notice about the nose? You notice how the nose droops down towards the very bottom of the belly? Like, we're talking a good drastic change right here, right? It's almost like they're sitting way above the nose, right? Whereas on the 777, they were sitting quite close to the nose, as in they open up the window, reach out, and touch the nose, right? You think they could do that on the 787? Probably not, right? I'm talking about the very tip of the nose, right there, right? That's what I'm talking about, the very tip, okay? Imagine you trying to reach out the window and touch that. Be kinda hard, right? Because of where you're positioned. So, that is one difference between the 787 and the 777, alright? Now, the 767, the 777, the 787, and the 747, which we'll talk about, are all wide body aircraft types, just so we understand this right now, okay? We're talking about wide body aircrafts. Now, the 737 and the 757, which we discussed, and the 717, they're both narrow body. They're manually loaded. Ones that I just talked about to you and showed you visually on cam, those are wide body. They have loading units that we load bags into, or freight or mail into, and we load that into the plane. We call them a specific name for that, okay? And you'll find out about that, maybe later, or I don't know. We'll figure that out later, okay? Now, one of the difference reasons that the 787 is so talked about is because it was one of its kind to Chevron style engines. Now, what are Chevron style engines? They look like shark's teeth. You see that? That's what you call Chevron style shark's teeth. Okay. Now, small fun fact for you av geeks out there. Why do you think the back of the engine cowl is blue? Because it was freshly manufactured. When that gets hot via the thrust and the exhaust from the thrust, that eventually will turn this color right here. You see that? Okay. This cone, this will eventually turn into this color. So that's one way to tell an aircraft is brand new. You got that new shoe smell, the new home smell, the new car smell. Well, you want to know what new plane smells like? That's a new plane right there. Okay. So the reason that they created that was to increase the airflow to make that noise when the engines were expelling thrust, right, out of the back, causing that sound, okay, and noise. They were getting a lot of noise and complaints saying, "Oh, this is gonna be too bad. I don't wanna live around here with all these planes flying around." That plane on full takeoff is not that loud. It's almost half as loud as a 777. Carries the same number of passengers, can fly just about the same length, can use about the same thrust and all that, but with half the noise. And that's why, because of those Chevron style engines. Okay. Now, let's see if it shows you in this particular image. This one has a really weird looking cone style thing for the APU exhaust. Okay. You see that? It kind of looks like a cone, like an ice cream cone that got chopped off on the end. All right. Also, look at the stabilizers. These are called the elevators. I'm sorry. Okay. Now, do you notice how it sort of curves up? Yeah. That's another design feature they did. Also, I want to show you, look at the wing of a 7. It's not exactly flat. It kind of bends up. They did this on purpose. Okay? Go Google a picture of a bird. Now, watch a bird in flight. If you look at a bird in flight, if you look at the feathers and its wings fully extended in flight, watch the edges of the bird's wings. It's not exactly straight as it flies. It's kind of curved, right? That's how they came up with the idea for the 787. Okay. Now, on that subject, we have the 787 800 series, 900 series, and 1000 series. Okay. And in case you haven't already figured this out, the higher the number, the more fuel it carries, the more passengers it carries, the more weight it carries, and the longer it flies. Okay. So The 8,000 I'm sorry, the 800 does not fly as much as the 900, which flies not as much as the 1,000. Make sense? Okay. Next, we have the Max series. Now, the Max came out a little while ago, not too long ago, but a little while ago, okay? And they came up with an all digital display, all right? So it's all computerized display. It's got the same yoke, it's got the same throttle, it's got the same pedals, everything. The only thing that's different about the Max nowadays is the computer system and um same switches, all that good stuff, okay? And there were some other components they changed, okay? But you have the Max 7, the Max 8, the Max 9, and the Max 10, okay? So you have Max 700, the Max 800, the Max 900, and the Max 10 series, right? But when you look at the body, it'll say Max 7, Max 8, Max 9, and Max 10. Okay. Not very many Max 10s are in production right now. Okay. Because they just passed FAA certification not that long ago. So they're trying to manufacture them. And um, there's some other reasons that they haven't yet. And if you have been watching and paying attention to aviation history, it's related, you can find out why. Okay. And yeah. Um it's a bit of a touchy subject on this channel and among people that fly. Also, let me stop you right here. I talk about a lot on aviation, guys, but if you haven't noticed, sort of the downer side of things and the things that are clouds that people don't think about, I try to keep away from our channel. Type of person to hide. I'm not gonna hide anything, okay? But I firmly believe that there is a way to cause fear in a lot of people, okay? And when you do this, you can end in very bad things, okay? Having said that, um, I want to tell you that this system, both Boeing and Airbus, were designed by professionals. They were designed by scientists. They were designed by people in labs. They were designed by people that make a lot of money. It's not just your average 9 to 5 guy. He might work 9 to 5, but he is by far not your average 9 to 5 guy or gal or whatever. I know you're among us. I know. However, um, I try to remove much of that as I can. For my subscribers, I think eventually what we're gonna do is we're gonna open a underground section. We're gonna open a dark section where if you are interested to learn about the not so good stuff and gee, I kind of wish I didn't know that kind of stuff. We might put that on this channel. I'm not sure. Um, like I said, guys, let me throw this out there so that you guys are aware 1,000%. I'm not here to throw anybody under the bus. I'm not here to lose anybody's job. I'm not here to scare you because it's fun. My job is to encourage and to share the knowledge and to inform you. Okay. But there are things that you probably don't know about all the time. And there's some things in the news that you're like, oh, that can't be true. There are certain things that actually are true. Okay. But at the end of the day, you're trying to take your family from here to there. You're trying to see your loved ones from here to there. You're trying to go on a trip or vacation from here to there. You're trying to send a letter to a loved one from here to there, and this, that, and the other. So, in order for it to happen, you got to trust us. You got to trust that we'll get there. And believe me, it has. I am living proof. I work for an airline. I fly with the airline. Now, I don't let me repeat myself. I fly with the airline. Did I say I fly for the airline? No. I fly with the airline, not for, with. Yes, we do get free flight benefits, okay? As most airlines do, okay? It's not a secret, it's just common knowledge, okay? But it's also something that we don't openly, voluntarily will tell you, okay? Um, for very many reasons, right? And we can explain some of the reasons why we won't disclose that. We'll explain some of the reasons on reasons that you shouldn't ask about them, and we'll explain things to do if you ever get invited one. Okay. So, um, but yes, among the Max family, if you aren't already aware, there may be some history behind the Max that you can do your research. It's up to you. I'm not going to stop you. But we've just gone over the Boeing family. Okay, we went over the Boeing family, and there's another family involved. That's right, the Airbus family. Okay, so if you did your math,